welcome Keith to the BTS Creative Academy Podcast. We're currently here at Thought Bubble, and this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Supanova Media.
Okay.
They're looking to support creatives, particularly storytellers. They're here exhibitioning at the festival. They bring me here today, and so I've just met you, Keith.
Yes, indeed you have.
You're here as a visitor.
Here, just as a punter. Yeah, I've travelled over from Belfast in Northern Ireland.
Nice.
This is my second time at Thought Bubble. Last time was 2 years ago, and I tend to come with my my podcasting partner Alan, and we have what I think is certainly the only comic book podcast in Northern Ireland.
Wow.
Possibly Ireland, but I need to get down in my market research.
Yeah, need to double check that.
Absolutely.
So tell me, what's your podcast called?
It's called the Coffee and Heroes Podcast. It is named so because my buddy owns an independent comic book shop in Belfast, and as a way, I guess, of promoting that store, we started the podcast, and it's taken on a life of its own. So in some ways the title doesn't really make a lot of sense, but
No. Well, even with this podcast, sometimes it's like, well, BTS Creative Academy, what's all that about? But for me, it started off as one thing, and it's become a different thing.
And what is that? What is that thing?
So the thing that it started as was, I was doing this in the beginning as some kind of idea of doing training courses for creative people. So writing, directing, acting, different things that I have experience in. But I quickly realised that I'm not necessarily the teacher, I'm the student.
Aren't we all?
Exactly. And I went on this journey of meeting more and more creative people and learning so much from them, and I'm having such a good time doing it. I'm like, no, the podcast itself is the thing.
Yeah,
and a kind of the title still fits with it. Maybe there are some other students out there listening, people that are open to learning some stuff along the way. I think that's why we enjoy a podcast, don't we?
I think
we can get something from them, can't we?
I mean, the way we organise our content and the way, I guess, the comic industry works is that, every 3 months there's a previews catalogue comes out. So one of the pieces we do every month is a previews podcast, which discussing what's coming out in 3 months,
a bit of excitement.
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Generate a wee bit of excitement, amongst our listeners. Maybe they'll look at putting a book that's coming up on their pull list.
Yes. Yeah.
The other thing we do is a look back. So we review what came out the previous month and what we like. And I mean, the understanding is it's only our opinion, but there's also one of the things that we try to do is we'll talk about and elevate things that we like, but rather than be negative about things we don't like, we'll just not talk about those things, because there's so much negativity, I think, out there and on the internet that it's nice.
We need to be focusing on that positive side. Yeah.
And I mean, then the other thing, and maybe the coolest thing is we interview creators.
Okay.
Creative people, the writers and the artists and so forth in the industry, and what we have found is that they're very, very open. Really, really interested in talking to you and putting out what they're doing. And I mean, I guess that's part of what you're doing.
Exactly, yeah. And it's really interesting that this positive slant that you're trying to take, because a lot of the media has that negative slant out there. And so I think we do have some responsibility, us individuals, to sort out the scales there a little bit and increase that positive. But at the same time, we do have to be, I think with creativity, we do have to be constructive.
Yes.
If we just gave positive feedback to a creator.
That's a skill, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a skill. It takes some time to maybe learn how to do that, rather than tell everyone, oh, you're fantastic, you're lovely, or you're bad, or you're shit. Just finding somewhere in the middle.
I mean, there is a difference between negativity and constructive criticism. Would that be fair to say?
I would guess so. I would guess that. Yeah, but it's finding it.
Yes.
It's finding it, how to be constructive. And I guess it's different with everyone, because you can get some, I know a lot of actors, for example, are quite sensitive people.
Yeah.
And if you see them perform and you're too quick to go into that constructive criticism, it can be quite damaging for them.
Agreed. I, in my day-to-day job, I work in the music industry. Lucky enough to be able to do that, and I would say much the same about musicians as you've just said about actors. That, and I mean, it's because, as is the case with all creatives, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when a song you know, in a role in a comic book, you're kind of putting your soul out there on the page, or in the song, or in the, you know, or in the
Yeah, so
the
when you
role.
do that, when you
You're
when
making
you
yourself vulnerable.
you are, and so it takes a lot of courage to do that in the first place.
Mm.
To, you know, writers, for example, sit alone. They're writing, or artists of the comic books. They're alone while they're doing it. They're solitary, and yeah, it comes from a deep
Yeah.
internal place,
Absolutely.
and they're going, I'm going to give this to the world,
Uh-huh.
and then when the world goes, no, thank you,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's like putting a knife in them, isn't
Yeah.
it?
And I mean, it takes a certain kind of person, I think, to have the is it courage or need or to put those things out into the world, to make yourself vulnerable, and knowing that you're vulnerable. And I mean, a lot of there's been a lot more awareness, I think, these past few years about you know, well-being and mental health. You know, in creatives, amongst creatives, certainly. Again, in my day-to-day, I work for a music charity, and one of the things that we do is provide mental health support for musicians. You know, but I think that translates equally to any sort of creative. And
Yeah, I wonder if there's an element of creatives need a little bit of self-torture that maybe, and tell me that I'm wrong, but maybe we have to have this, because you see it a lot. You see artists torture themselves. You see some of them turning to drink and drugs.
yeah,
Because they're struggling with life, or maybe is it because we analyze stuff a lot, that then that can be quite painful, the way that we're very analytic creatives.
possibly. I mean, there's a lot. To
I think
unpack
we're going on we're
That's,
going on a discovery
yeah,
here, so I'm not saying
absolutely.
any of this is right or wrong.
I think there's a truth in what you're saying, but I also think there's a danger in the idea of the tortured creative, and almost a danger in maybe striving for that.
Yes,
you know, that can be dangerous. You know, thinking, oh, I have to be tortured.
Yeah, I have to look for the darkness.
Yeah.
I think for me, where I'm going with this is that I had a period of my life where it was very dark.
Okay.
And I was very tortured, and I was struggling a lot with something that I was. My wife, she had cancer, and she had that for a long period of time, and I had young children, and I was trying to hold it all together. And when you're a carer for a long period of time, it kind of weighs on you.
Yeah.
And then I had this big, huge fear of death hanging over me, and it was like that big dog that they call it.
Yeah, the black dog.
The black dog that follows you around. It was like that, and depression, and so that was a past moment that I experienced, and I managed to come free of that now.
Yes.
And so I can recognize how dark the world can be, and I can analyze that and look back, and I think that's given me a lot of courage moving forward, because I've been to the darkest places, that now nothing else can fear me.
Yeah,
fear me. Nothing else can scare me.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe it can, but at this moment I don't feel like that.
And I mean, what you're saying is that you can now look at that from an outside
side. I can take myself away from it and almost see that as that was a separate time and place to where I am now.
Yeah. That sounds healthy.
Yeah,
that sounds really positive. You know, we to go back to what we said about positivity. That sounds really positive.
It is, yeah.
To go through a thing, to not to hide from it, but to deal with it. You know,
and to face it. I guess in a way, I faced it head on and dealt with the issue.
If you don't mind me asking, we've only just met each other.
No,
so,
of course, no. I'm very. One of the things that has changed since then is before I was a very internal person. This isn't something I would have been doing 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. I can totally understand that.
Yeah, but now I'm free, and I think I feel like there's some purpose to me being open now.
Yeah. And can I ask, did you have help or support whenever you were going through that? Did you?
I shied away from it. I shied away from
okay.
all support. I was determined that I was strong enough to deal with this all on my own, which was terrible.
That's kind of a wee bit of, is that what we maybe would call toxic masculinity?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. That I was husband, dad, and I would deal with this, and I would look after this situation, and help wasn't necessary, and I couldn't see that at all.
Fulfilling roles that are set before us to occupy that aren't necessarily healthy.
No, and I would hate for looking back at that again at that moment, I would hate for my children, let's say, to take that as a role model. You know, at the time I was like, I'm the role model here, and I need to be setting a good example. But I was setting a terrible example. I should not have been behaving like that at all. I should have been going to seek help. I found recovery in an accidental way that I wouldn't necessarily recommend.
Okay.
That isn't necessarily orthodox. I had too much edible marijuana.
Right. Okay.
And it is seen as there's a lot of investigation into this at
therapeutics,
the moment. Therapeutics, and that was the beginning of my recovery. Mm-hmm. But it was very traumatic at the same time. Yeah. So whenever I talk about this, I always say that it isn't something that I'm recommending that you go into.
Sounds like you walked the line and you happened to fall on the good side of the line rather than the other side.
Rather than the other side. And that, at that moment of taking too much, it could have been very dangerous if I wasn't around people that loved me and cared for me.
And that's that's kind of what I was asking. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of, just to bring it right back here to Thought Bubble, mm-hmm. There's a community here. There's whenever you come here, you are surrounded by people who love the same thing, mm-hmm. And that's the visual medium of comic books, whether that be independent stuff or superhero books or the big two or whatever else,
mm-hmm.
But there is a community, and it's the same in music. Mm-hmm. There is community. There's there's always this idea of striving to be better than the other person, but mm-hmm. In a community, other people help bring you up, mm-hmm. when you stand on shoulders and people lift you up, in a positive community. And I think that is maybe the medicine for a lot of
the true medicine.
Exactly.
Now I'm thinking about this and I'm going back to this moment of this accidental night where I had too much of this cannabis. Mm-hmm. That actually my dad being around me and looking after me, my family, my community, looking after me is actually what helped. And knowing that there's people there that no matter how dark and bad it gets, I'm going to be cared for.
Yeah, and whether that's the family we're born into or the family you choose.
Yes, where here at Thought Bubble, the family, family you
absolutely,
choose.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, so it's
there's something within this. We go on wonderful discoveries. On this
100%, 100%. And
having a conversation and talking is so important as well, because I think actually this has been therapeutic to me. Mm-hmm. There has definitely been a growth if I chart this back to the beginning of me doing this, starting this 18 months mm-hmm. ago, 18 of months. my personal development in that time period. Yeah,
fantastic. So you started this 18 months ago, and in that mm-hmm. year and a half, you've.
Yeah, so what it was for me is I had this night of this experience, transcendental experience. I went to the other realms.
Right.
Yeah, I went to the 6th, 7th, and 8th dimension.
There's probably a few comic books down there all about
There probably is, and I've got some more stories to tell about those other dimensions. But I went to all the other places and went to heaven and hell, and came out the other side a bit refreshed. I'll never forget the morning after when I got up and my dad just went, "Wow, you look okay." Like you look, and I did, and I felt okay.
And you look great now.
And I felt, I appreciate that. Thank you. You don't look too bad yourself, having just met you. But no, we're in good moods and good spirits, and that helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Life feels good now, and like going back to that, I've seen the darkness.
Yeah.
So I know what this. I can experience this and take the best out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Those are wise words.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that very, very much. But where was I going with this? Now you gave me a compliment. Do you know what? That always throws me when I get a compliment.
I think that is. I don't know if that's something that guys aren't good at taking, or that English people or British people aren't good at taking. But it's something that I. It's something that I have tried to do more often, because,
learn to say thank you.
Yeah, learn to say thank you. But also, whenever someone does a good thing, or someone's looking well, or someone, you can really Or and we talked about criticism, constructive criticism, and that's really what it is. Just in a small day-to-day way, I'll go, man, your hair looks.
You're doing
good
it. You're doing good. You look like you're doing good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that can change someone's day.
Yeah. And that's definitely been part of spurring this forward. Is that small little moments of encouragement. I remember something early on. I had a friend. Lots of friends have helped me out with this podcast, and she sat down in here, and after talking to me for half an hour, she was like, "This is you. This is what you do. You should have always been doing
man, you're
this."
a natural. You're a natural. I say that having met you 10 minutes ago,
She was like, "This is what you do. This you should have always been doing this." And I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." Like, I will. Then.
Yeah, and I mean, likewise with our pod, we've had people helping us. There's a technical setup involved that you have to really understand, and you can learn that from other people. I was lucky enough to have some folks in the music industry, and likewise, then we needed a theme tune, so I had a musical friend compose a theme tune for us.
Nice.
And,
you can't do any of this on your own. There's elements of this on my own.
Yeah.
There's elements of what you do by yourself, but to really make it work and come alive, you need community.
You do.
People.
And I think podcasts are great because you need community to put them together, whether that community is the community that helps you set it up, whether that's the community that listens, whether that's the community you draw to interview, it's but in addition to needing community, they create community. You bring people together, you bring people in. Do you mind me mentioning a few other podcasts?
Of course, no. This is really important.
I mean, one of the best podcasts I listen to, and the one that got me into the idea of podcasting as new media, and has almost taken over from where traditional radio has left off, was. Are you familiar with Blind Boy, the Blind Boy podcast?
No, I'm not.
Oh wow!
No,
okay,
okay.
So Blind Boy is. Blind Boy Boat Club is his full moniker.
Okay.
He was an Irish musician and was very famous in the 2000s for a song called "Horse Outside," and it was a he toured with it. Him and his the Rubber Bandits was the name of the band. But before COVID, he started a podcast to, like we did with the shop and the Coffee and Heroes podcast. He started a podcast to promote his new book. So he was writing a book. The title of the book.
Of course, referencing isn't always.
It was like the Gospel according to Blind Boy or something.
Okay.
But so he read the first X number of chapters of his book, and then the podcast became his hot takes and things, and his as a sort of qualified therapist, his takes on mental health and interviewing different artists like you yourself are doing, different creatives.
Yes, no.
And it's become a phenomenon. Like he is.
I'm going to have to look at this.
Absolutely,
aren't I? Yeah.
I think he is one of the top now one of the top listened to podcasts in the UK. Certainly the top in Ireland. His weekly listens exceed the national TV station in terms of watches,
Yeah, and this is happening with podcasts all over the place. Even if you go to the number one podcast in the world, Joe Rogan, you might not agree with him or like him, but his viewership is 10 times that of national news now.
Yeah, no, I mean there is something to be said about Spotify picking them up.
True.
But
absolutely.
So
there is some marketing, but there is
still
some there is a call for it. People want to listen to these conversations.
And it's the same, I think, or it is. It's similar to the way we used to watch traditional TV. You used to turn on the TV whenever EastEnders was on at 8 o'clock. The things that probably your mum and dad are still doing. They sit down at 8 o'clock to watch a thing. Whereas, I would tend to turn on Netflix and watch whatever I want when I want to. So it's no longer appointment TV. Likewise, I think podcasts are kind of similar, and so you don't turn on the radio to listen to a radio show at 8 o'clock anymore. But I can turn on your podcast anytime I want, whenever I'm out for a run.
Yeah, and you can try and find a subject that you're interested in as well.
Yeah.
So every single episode has a different title to kind of summarize what it is that will bring you into it and what you might get out of it as an audience member as well.
Conversely, is there a danger there as well that, because we are choosing exactly what we want to listen to and watch, that we're ending up in a echo chamber?
Yes,
But still, that's,
Yeah, no, that is a danger.
Yeah.
That is something to But I guess with what we're doing here, we're talking and you're sharing new things with me that I can go and discover. So it's bringing that human connection back into all
Absolutely
this. That we're not just listening to the mainstream media, what Sky News tells us to watch and listen to. Yeah. I'm going to take what Keith tells me to listen to next. You know, and isn't that nice?
That's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Absolutely. It gives you something to talk about. The next time I see you, it'll be, have you listened to Blind Boy? And
and I'll be like, thank you so much. And we'll get so much from that. So actually, the human connection is being strengthened.
Community.
All this. The community again. I think we know the title of this episode. It's gonna have something to do with community.
I would.
So as we come to the end with this, tell me a little bit about your hopes and dreams for the future with your podcast, with what you're doing.
I mean, we started it again. We started it to sort of promote the store, which again is Belfast's, maybe Northern Ireland's best independent comic store, Coffee and Heroes. Mm-hmm. It's just grown from strength to strength, but it's more about it's an excuse for me and my buddy to sit down and talk about comic books.
Of course.
And it's lovely that people.
But again, that's beautiful, isn't it? Isn't it that you and your mate have got a reason to sit down? Like it almost forces it to happen.
It is.
But something you'd love to do anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And so we chat about our favourite thing, and people in the store listen to it. People across the world listen to it, which is weird.
Yes.
Whenever people from Australia go, oh man, message you and go, oh, great podcast. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It connects us with the creators, the fans with the creators, and especially, I mean, over COVID, people were very accessible. We do a lot of these interviews online. I mean, it's actually lovely to be sitting here in a room with you, but
good.
But we do a lot online, so creators.
Well, that's the beauty of how technology has, brought us all together, hasn't it?
It absolutely has.
So why not take advantage of that?
Yeah, so, I mean, hopes and dreams, I'd obviously love to increase our listenership. Mm-hmm. Eventually, I think I haven't yet had the courage or the technical know-how to take the podcast into a video realm.
Right.
So we're an audio medium.
You got a phone?
I do have a phone, but and I see you've got your absolutely.
It's 100%. My phone. Like the camera. Again, technology. We're in this space at the moment where I've got a video camera in your pocket.
Yeah,
it's
right
crazy, isn't it? And the quality from that as well, like HD quality.
I guess for me, I just need to learn how to. I know how to edit audio. I don't know how to edit video. I just need to do a little bit of self-improvement,
and play around with it. And if you know how to edit audio, it's not too much different.
Yeah, absolutely.
I use a very simple piece of software, Final Cut Pro, to put these together. And what do you use to edit audio?
At the minute, I'm using. Oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of the technology at the. It's the PC version of GarageBand.
Oh, okay. They're all very much the same, though, aren't they? And editing the video is no different. No different.
You're keeping the video and the audio joined together.
Yeah, and so it's picking up audio on this. It's very easy to match because the wave lines will
match up
anyway. So just play
with
it, give it a go, and you'll get there. Yeah.
And I mean. Obviously, I have a day job,
Yeah, of course, we've got to do the
100%.
the other bits.
If at some point the podcast started providing a wee bit of income, and meant that we could spend more time doing it, that would be awesome. But it's not the reason we do it. We do it for the reasons we've talked about, that community and the things we love.
Yeah, which is wonderful. Yeah. So where will we find you?
Where will you find me? Where will you find us?
Where will you find you? Us?
Yeah. You can find Coffee and Heroes on all of the social media sites. It's just Coffee &Heroes. Or Coffee and Heroes. It is an independent comic store in Belfast, and through that you can find the podcast. There's also a Coffee and Heroes website, and it's just I think it's coffeeandheroes.com.
Well, I'll be sure to be adding links in the comments below so that people can find you.
Brilliant. Listen, thank you very much.
No, this has been wonderful. Thank you for stopping by and joining the conversation, Keith.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very much appreciated.
Pleasure to meet you.
And you as well. And if anyone has been watching or listening, we appreciate you for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
That was wonderful. We went on a journey there, didn't we?
We did. Very good.